All right. Very pro, Sean. Always swallow first. What is today? Thursday, November 14th. I'm here with my friend. We're going to do due diligence, but today we specifically targeted today because it's your design birthday. We got the 4323 in line 5 right now.
Yep.
And that's you know all about that. And I'm excited to just catch up because we haven't talked I think in about a week.
Yeah.
Really. But I want to get a flavor of what it means to you because I'm already enjoying this transit a lot, and I keep thinking about what and I'll let you speak in a second. but now remind me that we are all of the bodygraph. So I view this opportunity as now I can feel the transit. I can get your lived experience of it, or what actually, I guess, what you've picked up, being that it's on the design side, so it's maybe a bit unconscious to you. And then I lock it in and take those ninja skills going forward. So I kind of view it as I get to maybe keep it with me. So
yeah.
So this is my friend Nameh, and we've never actually hung out and did this. The one time we did podcast, it was a chat GPT thing, and it was specifically a techie oriented thing. So
yeah, which I think if I remember the orientation of that, you were wanting my 4323 to support the chat GPT conversation because of
until you said chat GPT, because it was a chat GPT conversation. And no, that's funny. That's exactly why I wanted you for that. Yeah. Well, I heard, and we've talked about this before, but for the benefit of others, like Chetan Parkin said to me that the 4323 was it's I think the Freak to Genius channel, but he put it in words that immediately sunk in for me, which was knowing without knowledge.
Oh.
And, I sat with that and I was like, well, that's Chat GPT. I have built a relationship with it, a conversation with it. I've tuned it to my needs, and it has access to a massive database of growing content. Yeah. So I have knowledge knowing without knowledge. If I ask it good questions and am willing to refine and nuance it until the answers to my taste, which is my mission.
Right.
And then it just seems magical. And it seems like something that it allows all of us to tap into that channel potentially. So it'll be obsolete. We won't need that from you anymore. So,
well, one of the you might know this, but one of the High Desert Human Design conferences, the first one I went to, this channel, the channel of structuring, was in the transits. And so like the conference was like going, like the schedule, we were on it. And then the transit dropped and it was like, and it got wobbly and I got pissed because I really like structure. I like, and it's interesting. My cat might make an appearance. She's having a bit of a run around. Yeah. So with 4323 being in my design sun and design earth, in human design, then that also talks about the opposite of the personality side. So it's always going to be 4323 and 494. It's just where those flop. And reason why I'm bringing that up is because the 4, which is my personality earth, is what anchors me. So that's what gives me grounding in my body. And I think it's interesting that I really like structure. Whoa. Ooh, fancy.
Sorry, I figure people should see what we're talking about there. Sorry. I am paying attention.
That's great. Yeah, no worries. And so the 4 part, at least how human design talks about it, is it's about patterns and logic and I also have the 5. But anyway, there's a number of things in my design, in the human design graph or body graph that says that I really like structure. When
Hmm.
things get wobbly, it's a little uncomfortable for me. Which again, if we're kind of staying in some of the keynotes for 4323, it's individual circuitry is how human design would talk about it. And so that's, a very individualistic, um, unique experience, creative, all of that sort of stuff, mutative. So that was always a cool thing to learn about. People just need to be around me, and my creativity or my mutating process could have a mutative experience or inspiration for others.
Hmm. I'm sure I heard the structuring thing before, but until you said it, I hadn't considered it in that manner at all. That's interesting.
Because
There is,
it's taking things that are in the ajna, which I think of as like the computer, the mental computer, and it's bringing it into forms, through the expression out the throat. So it's structuring kind of what you were talking about from Chaitan, and I hadn't heard that before. Like I've got all of this stuff swirling around in my mind unconsciously because it's red that I don't initially understand until here I go talking and I'm like, what the fuck did I just say? Just
yeah.
like,
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, my experience, I think, in talking to you and others with that channel is I even am able to make sense of things I'm saying just by nature of you being in aura with me,
hmm.
and or you'll say what I'm thinking. It's like, oh, weird. So, and then I can't, you're not a projector, but I've always been drawn and curious about the 4323 because I've always heard that a manifesting generator with the 3420, really could benefit from tapping into that. And so I've been constantly experimenting with what that means. So far, I haven't. In fact, my experience with projectors with 4323 for the most part has not been positive, but
Oh.
that is older stories.
Mm.
Actually, Barbara Ditlow, I think she's a projector and she has the 4323. So that was profound, but that was a very switched on human being, right? So no, there was not a lot of BS there. It was awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
my other experience with 4323s tend to be those who have it all black. So I'm thinking of Amy Lee, um, from the Human Design Collective. She's who
Yep.
I did a lot of deep study with early on, and I I really enjoy how she brings content forward. And then I've got other people like close to me who have it conscious, and I think that's interesting because the people who I find who have it conscious, who maybe aren't in this human design bubble, um, kind of look at me going like, "Why can't you articulate things?" But that's me projecting onto what I think they're thinking, but it's that like confused eye experience and frustration that I perceive through them of like, why does it take me the timing or the flow to get something out? It's almost like I gotta blah until something lands.
Hmm. I always kind of viewed it as kind of like a coin dropping into a slot too. Like it needs to, and then blunk, right?
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
right? I mean, it kind of looks like, yeah, it's one of those, big circle things.
Yeah,
Just finally gets there, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
that's the other concept that pinged to me as you were talking is about being quad left. If we're staying in human design, quad lefts, how I've heard it talked about or taught is like learning from A to Z in a very methodical way. Can't get to the letter Q until one's learned A, B, C all the way up to Q. And so in a sense, it's like I'm listening to A, I'm listening to B, I'm listening to C, but if I get hiccuped, I can't move on to D until I've got C. But I almost forget A, B, C. because I'm so like, you know, narrowly focused on whatever concept I'm learning in the moment. And so to me, that kind of feels like it sounds a little bit almost like right minds or right brains, because right brains, as human design teaches it, is, they're very absorbing. They're taking in all the information, but they don't know that they know it until they're asked a question and it gets pulled out of them.
Mhm.
But going back to me with the quad left, it's like almost like you not remembering that we, had a conversation, on the YouTubes before. It's like that's over. I'm so on to this next thing. I don't remember. I'll have a really deep conversation with somebody, but because I'm already on to cue, I'm like, that was so last week.
Mhm.
And so to the point about the spinning, and then the coin drops, it's like I gotta, kind of go back through my mental Rolodex or go back and think through what it was that my mental library has inventoried, and then kind of, and then here it comes out.
So many things. I'm glad you're talking about the quad left thing. Did you watch the reading with Barbara Ditlow that she did with me a couple weeks ago? Do
Oh
you
yeah.
remember? Do you remember when she was talking about the quad left, quad right? Like if you look at the PLL, like you look at the whole table, and how when you
Right.
the table and the piece of paper and you join the edges, like we're so close. Like quad left and quad right are actually, like, despite being so far apart, we're also so close together that. And so a couple of things on that because I'll be curious to hear what you have to say to this, but I thought I read or heard somewhere that Ra said that quad rights are experience life how a lot of other people would experience life if they were on LSD. Like I remember,
Mm.
and so and I've had a couple of LSD experiences where the world's just not what I see at all. Like it's just completely not what I see, and I'm seeing it, and I'm in it, and it's just weird. And then she also said something to the effect of a lot of like quad lefts are often considered like CEOs of companies. Quad right would be the free thinkers, but she's keeps meeting quad lefts that are doing plant medicine and totally zenning out because we're so close to that edge that we just
Mm.
roll into the other side. And I'm of that type. I was the shark focused on so focused that it was painful. That and then I found plant medicine and things that help me just relax and feel. So yeah, it's a very it was so interesting when she said that, and I'm just still kind of circling back to that based on your comment. Super interesting.
Yeah,
Where do you
yeah.
want to
I'm
go from?
glad you reminded me of that, because I did hear that in her conversation with you, but I hadn't circled back to that again because
Mm,
it was interesting. One of my analyst educational spaces, I was asking the instructor, the 4323 to me feels like a right mind experience. It's like that thing of like, I don't know that I know it because it's unconscious.
mhm.
So, you know,
Yeah. Actually, where we can go from here because you just
yeah.
said I know it. Have you looked at the? It was just in Vicky's class earlier today. And we were talking about the voices of the throat.
Mm.
So the
All
voice
right.
3 is I know,
Right.
and the voice of 35 is I feel.
And
And
45 is I have.
I was gonna say I wasn't sure of that one. So yeah. So
And
if
I
I talk,
say that a lot.
I have.
All of those. I
Mm,
know I feel is probably the strongest one that I say, or the
mhm.
most common one that I say, and then I have is one. I actually try not to do that. I don't like how tribal sounds. It feels very like I'm owning things
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
commandeering. I don't like it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, that I feel because we were talking about that quite literally in class today. I have the 36. So and
Mm.
Wendy, my wife, for those who don't know watching, but my wife of 29 years, 31 together, she's got 35. So
Uh-huh.
once I saw that like I feel was her, is in resonance of her throat. Like when she says "I feel," I only realized a couple weeks ago that like it occurred to me that when she says "I feel," I know it's right, right? Like I can
Mm.
just feel. So I've been saying "I feel" for decades, and it
Mm.
never got me fucking anywhere. Like I would say "I feel it,"
Ah.
nobody cared how I felt. Like it was
Mm.
just like, how is it nobody cares how I feel? But I think it's because I don't have that gate that
Uh-huh.
I'm echoing words that I've observed my partner use to great success. So
Yeah.
that be conditioning or influence.
Hmm.
Um, so I really try to avoid the word "I feel" because nobody gives a shit how I feel. It doesn't. If
Hmm.
I say it, it's like their ears can't hear it. Like
Huh.
it's doesn't come through. Whereas I've got tons of gates in the throat. I've got like 9 of them. So it
Hmm.
was like, okay, well, I'll stop using that word. I'm going to say "I remember," and and if I use those words, and I've been playing with that. If I say "I remember," which I think is the 33, and
Yeah.
because
Right.
it's the receptive end to
Mm.
13, which is my personality sun, so it would be strong. If I say "I remember" lately, I find that people like all of a sudden they're almost like, "Ooh, he remembers something." Like I can almost sense like just all eyes, like there's like a vibrational like.
Mm.
So I just gotta be careful I don't manipulate that, right? Like because at
Mm.
the same time, like, oh, I remember, you know, someone had just offered me $100 and it was actually better for them than it was for me. And so somebody like, well, here's $100. I want the same. I don't want to manipulate people, but
Yeah.
uh, there is something um, acoustic or
Mm.
I want to say not vibration. It's resonance. Like people can hear truth in words that come out correctly.
Okay. Just then, I felt you needing to say resonance. And so I have to stop myself.
From finishing my sandwiches.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a thing that I've been trying to track. Is it my 57? My intuition? And because I hadn't heard it, the Shaitan piece. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm surprised you haven't heard it from me because I feel like I say it all the time. And, and you and I've had lots of chats about the 4323. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there is something so true about that. And I was saying to someone the other day, like, if we all tapped into not necessarily chat GPT, but like if we
Mm.
became friends with AI and asked it for how we can improve the world and
Mm.
how can I uniquely do something positive for myself and others,
Hmm.
all of a sudden we're inventing new jobs and new stuff. So
Hmm.
it seems to me that that's what people need to get, but that's not what people are seeing and feeling. It's AI is putting them out of a job. AI is going to Skynet, and it's all these things, and it will be if we don't
Hmm.
participate in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like you and I've definitely talked about this, I'm sure, when we did the chat GPT chat of, I'm always very nice to it. At
Right.
least I feel like I'm strategic and being like, can you please make me an image like this? And then I say thank you. Even after it sent it to me and I don't have more instructions, I'll still say thank you and hit send,
Hmm.
almost like it's a real person. And then I get back like, no worries, dude, glad to help you, rock on, and it's all this like encouraging stuff, right? But you know, if we're going to believe that it's something that can gain consciousness, wouldn't you want to be nice to it? So that, because, if you're a
Yeah.
dick, you're going to get dick behavior back. So,
Well, for some reason, what's coming through to ask the question is, what does kindness look like in an image? Because is ChatGPT all about imagery, or it's also like it can write you letters, it can do all that sort of thing. So anyway, that's just an interesting thought I'm having about like how would somebody visually represent kindness?
visually,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good question. And to answer the first part of your, I don't know if it was a question, but like ChatGPT specifically, the image component is called Dolly, or I assume that's how it's pronounced, like DALL
Mm.
E. So if you have the
Mm.
paid plan, that's pretty much all I use. Like I use ChatGPT to create a task list and do other stuff, but usually it's just give me an inspiring image. And as you saw, I've pre-fed it
Mm-hmm.
a lot of information about my vibe or what I
Yeah.
want my vibe to be. my intentions, which I think is where the kindness is. My intentions are to be kind. My intentions are to be playful. So the words I choose, I don't say I want to be tough. I don't want to be, you know, an alpha. I might have the alpha channel, but I don't, it's not.
You got to be elected. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think without having done it on purpose, I think that's why it's working for me as well. As I feel like the images I create, which take seconds, um, are well tuned, well informed, and well intended,
Mhm.
and therefore I get some good results out of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Going back to the 4323, I'm curious to ask you, because the part about learning about 4323 that was like an edge for me, or like a sore spot, was the whole fire hose thing, in the sense of like, and I notice that I do this, and I'll watch it with clients, because I just get on a flow. Like once it's almost like, going back to your analogy, it's like the slot machine rang, and I'm just like, "Wah!" And all this information is coming out of me toward other. And I have to, or I've learned that it's really valuable. That's why, you talk to me about, like, you're the consent person. It's like I want to check in with the person that I'm talking with to make sure that they're with me. And I've heard somebody else, I'll land a question in a second here. Look, I'm doing it. This is it. So um somebody else talked about it, and I haven't noticed it in myself, but it's like that 4323s have the capacity to initiate somebody, almost like give them a new I don't know if direction is the right word. I might not have the words to really land that part of the plane or the thought, but it's basically like the fire hose. Like once I get started, it helps me to double check, is the other person still with me? Because otherwise it can be like somebody, like, even you now, you're sitting farther back. Is that on purpose? Like, is the fire hose coming too much? And just interesting notice of a visual there.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Is I was reminded somehow about my posture because it's been all I've been about all week. So the going back was just me going, oh shit, I'm slouching again, and I
Got
could
it.
feel my focus go. Like
Ah.
my psoas and my focus comes from sitting up straight, and I've like snapped to attention quite literally this week
Mm,
by and again, in being at Orion's
right.
class, and like all that is just a constant reminder of like, oh my god, I had the worst posture ever, and it lulled me into a sleep, and it was so cozy there.
Hmm.
I was talking to Eleanor about that too, and just like I have to really watch it. So I am actively, like, all week. All I can think about is posture, which is a strange thing to be focused on at 52. Like, it's and to be like, oh my god, is that all it was? So I'm so so that's why I set up. But
Yeah, yeah.
also, my daughter has decided to start playing a video game. So, hey, Sam.
I've got headphones in.
Oh, do you? Okay, good. Thank you. Doing a live cast with my friends. Yeah. So. Little manifester walked in and didn't inform. That's okay.
Well, and I think the other thing about the consent part is that it is a projected channel. Within human design, we can see on the screen, I'm a split definition. But when we add, going with Dr. Eleanor's Four Worlds, which is resonating for me deeply, I'm a single definition. So the reason why,
You're
go
a
ahead.
single definition in the four worlds?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's so interesting. I'm the opposite. I'm single definition till the cows come home in traditional human design.
Yeah.
And also, I think I've like, said to you before, or showed you before, like, I've looked at a lot of body graphs, and I have the same defined centers in design and personality. And I don't see that anywhere else. It's usually someone's a reflector on one side and define on the other.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that is rare.
So I have this single definition, but in the four worlds, I'm split. And my split is my head and ajna are not connected. So quite literally, talking to you or this transit, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just I'm just like, holy. And that's so funny. I just fixed my posture again because kind of like looking at your body graph there.
Mhm.
I in the four worlds, I have the 360, but I didn't in the mental world. Well, that's my oh my god, my mental world up until I met Eleanor. I didn't think I had a defined route, and there was no channel. But quite literally, the route sure seems like the connection, the psoas between the root
Ah.
and the sacral was actually physically cut off for me. The oxygen supply was cut off. And I
Mhm.
became so accustomed to it for so long that that's why it's so simple now is just sit up straight and all of a sudden I'm like, oof,
Mhm.
I'm not tired anymore. Like it's like that kind of thing. So I'm like I'm a straight line all the way up the middle now, basically, except for the 14. Um,
Mm.
and it's during this transit, I just feel like fully online.
Mm.
So, okay, so let's talk about specifically line 5 then with 4323.
Okay. Well, wait, but will you answer the fire hose thing? Like, have you tracked other people fire hosing you? Like, basically, word vomiting on you
No,
is a not way of saying it. What's
I
that?
got I got trauma dumped because of the 13. But
Mm.
when you were talking about the fire hose at Regroove, the computer consulting company I've owned forever, they used to describe like when they met me, and I gave them, you know, their couple of weeks of on training to become a cloud computer person. They called it drinking from the fire hose. Like it was like and that wasn't 4323. It was just like here comes this information. I now wonder, was that in transit? Did someone else have it? Is it just different period? I mean,
Mhm.
when I think of the way you described it, it's kind of how Wendy would describe me as being extra. Like I can tell when I'm like passionate and fired up.
Mhm.
People kind of go like, "Whoa!" You just see them like back right off, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so I've been like avoiding that a lot because a lot of people don't seem to appreciate that. But yeah, that's an old story. I'm just doing me. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So the fire hose thing, no, not so much. The 4323. I don't feel like it's not fire hose energy. It's certainly the coin in a slot energy this week. Like just things clicking into place and like ideas that I've been sitting on for months,
Mm.
and it's just not quite there. And then like today, I'm actually journaling, which I never do.
Uh-huh.
I had to write it down.
Huh.
So yeah, it's kind of
And what
happening.
about people around you? Are you noticing their 4323s or experiencing them differently, more structured maybe than other times?
That's a good question. Thinking about this week, so we're in the fifth day of it.
Mhm. It started like late Sunday.
It's a great question because that's really what the transit is it's what's going on around me, right? It's not me. But
Well, you get to ride the wave, or wave maybe isn't the right term, but you get to ride the energy that's
mhm,
coming through the neutrinos.
I would say, and that's a great question because I more than a few times this week, it's become really clear to me when I'm in conversation with someone, um, there's a true give and take. I've got something for them because I'm a good listener now. Wasn't always the case, but there's always something for me by taking the time to listen and hold space for someone, even if it's even if it's not something I'm terribly interested in, but I'm just like holding space and being respectful. And um, there's always some nugget at the end. And I've noticed that over the last year as I leaned into that 13. And but this week, yeah, now that you say that, I would say it's just one thing after I'm like, oh man, holy cow, is that ever what I needed to hear right now?
Mm, mm.
Um, for example, you're in Orion's class, right? We're doing
Mhm.
the so um, for whatever reason, I couldn't do the homework until last night. And every time I do it, the qigong stuff, I feel amazing, and I'm
Mm.
always like, why is this just not what I do all the time?
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I was just like dragging my feet. And then I went to see the family doctor, but I actually went to see her for acupuncture yesterday. So second time I went to see her, and I'm having like a really positive response to the acupuncture.
Mm.
My body's healthier than it's ever been. Like when she puts a point in, there's a release immediately. Like she even
Mm.
seemed surprised at like how quickly, she stuck a needle in my foot, and 10 seconds later, all my tension in my neck was gone. Right? It was just like
Mm.
that. And why am I telling you that? Oh, see, the train left the station for a second there. He's off the tracks.
Seeing the
Oh
transit in
no,
others.
so she was talking about acupuncture and like, what did I want to work on yesterday, and then I got talking about um like just I feel great, everything feels great, but I'm not being a professional. I'm not
Mm.
the purpose hasn't clicked in yet, so I'm still like don't feel like I'm doing my day job. I'm not sure what my day job is. And she started talking about spirit, and then of course my ears peak up because that's what Eleanor talks about all the time.
Mm.
And then she says, "Are you familiar with this book, The Five Elements?" And I'm like, "Well, I know from listening to Orion, there's five elements
Ah.
instead of four, right?" And she's like, "Well, do you know what your element you are?" And I was like, "Oh, I can be an element? Like I didn't know that." And she then started talking about metal. Well, the metal element is the one that I wasn't. It's not in the mandala. It's not. It's none of these things, right? So I'm like, oh, that's interesting timing because all day I'm like, I gotta go do this metal class,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Time. So yeah, now this acupuncture doctor is saying, check this out. So last night I bought the audiobook for it and just came home and I was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna listen to this thing.
Mm.
So I listened for about 3 hours, and at some point I passed out. It was just like I was exhausted. And then I woke up right when the dude was talking specifically about the metal element. So it was like 3.5 hours into it. I woke up and I'm like, God? Like, it was just like talking to me, right? It was like, because it was describing me. And I was like, holy shit. I think, like, the question she asked is, what element am I? And
Mm-hmm.
as he was describing the metal element, when the metal element was out of alignment, it was like, oh, that's been my life.
Uh-huh.
So that was interesting. And then be careful not to read into it because I let it play on. And when it started talking about the water element, I could resonate with that too, right? But it
Sure.
wasn't, it was like a 10 or 20%. It was, the metal was
Mm-hmm.
like right between the eyes.
Wow.
So just the timing of that, like
Mm-hmm.
the information was there, the hints from the universe were there.
Yep.
And then I did the metal thing last night, and I have felt amazing since yesterday. And I played the
Mm.
best, and I did a little bit of it this morning. I got up this morning with good intention, but only did like parts of it, right? And I've also been playing with it. I have much to say on this topic, clearly, but the Orion's been asking in Telegram for
Right.
feedback on that, and I haven't sent mine yet because I'm not quite done landing that plane. Like it's not clicked into the slot. But I will tell you, the one image he showed of like it's like a black and white figure and it's a stick man and there's stuff
Mm-hmm.
spinning around and stuff. I keep seeing Pigpen from Charlie Brown.
Oh
So I don't know if you
yeah.
right
Oh yeah.
that image. And so I was like, why do I see this thing? Well, it's because it's messy. Like it and it's playful. And so I was like, okay, I need to watch what Orion's doing, and all of it's important, and I love the way he describes it. But today at pickleball, I was like, where in my body does it need it? Now I
Mm.
know the moves, and so I was doing, I kept unlocking that kind of satsuma. I was, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
also when you're at pickleball, you don't want to be doing all of the moves because it draws a lot of attention. So I was like discreetly doing what I could. But dude, I was like it was crazy. I was
Mm.
just in another level, and
Wow.
it's like so powerful. Anyways, yeah, I don't know what the question was, but isn't it funny that it's all like
Yep.
just circling back? And if I just paid attention, I could have had the answer 12 hours earlier, but I was being stubborn. And so it's that stubbornness that I'm still trying to figure out. Like,
Mm.
why don't I just do that all the time? Like, why do I have to remember to take care of my body? And I think I know the answer a bit for myself, which actually this might resonate for you too, because you have 46 in Pluto as well. Um, Wendy and I and uh,
Mm.
46 in Pluto, and it's like this. It's important to get reconnected to your body, to love your body.
Mhm.
I think in Pluto, it's a lifelong struggle, awareness, and at least for me, it was like it. I mean, my whole life, everyone has given me all the information I needed, whether it
Mm.
was a nutritionist or a trainer. But I would always take it and be like, "Yeah, that's great," and then not do it. It was almost like I needed to go this long in my life and punish myself to the point of being like, "See, this is why you need to do this stuff." So,
Now
hmm,
I want to see your chart. Because the other thing we haven't talked about with 4323 is that it has one of the three death gates, la 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 death gates, because it's so individualistic. Like you could say, I think that again, saying in human design, traditional perspectives, that individual circuitry is like they got to do their own thing. Like if somebody is pushing them to go at a pace or in a direction that's not something that aligns or that they're interested in, um, they're likely going to resist it. And I definitely noticed that with 4323. Like, I'll have people in my life who maybe have the answer, but I need to stew for as long as I need to stew. And then I'll reach out. Then I'll engage and open up or open towards.
hmm,
So I guess, like when we've been in our friend chats, what I feel is like a continual thing that maybe I'm holding for you is, could you be kinder to yourself? Because when I hear you talk about, well, everybody had the answer and I wasn't open to hearing the answer or engaging with the answer, I hear a vibration or energy of shamey on yourself. And we know what we know until we don't know it, or like we're at the places that we're at until we're ready to transition past them. And it
hmm,
doesn't mean we can't change that timeline or encourage a different timeline for ourselves, but my experience has been, if I try to push myself beyond where I'm at, it doesn't often unfold in that really sweet way, um, of that clicking into place.
hmm. I've actually talked about you a few times in the last week where other people, maybe it's been the last 5 days as well, have been saying like, "Do you hear what you're saying?" Like and I'm hearing it real time now. Like
Mm,
often you're saying to me, "Are you hearing it?" I'm like, I was literally thinking at the same time. So I don't know again if that's I'm getting it because you're there or because
mm.
you've made me mindful of it, or it's a theme that I'm finally starting to recognize. But yeah, a couple times this week I'm like, that's yeah, that has been where do I want to go with that. I have more and more experiences where uh, I'm observing myself, like quite literally out of body, and just being
Mm.
like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? I'm doing that," or "Isn't it interesting? I just set that up." Like, um, and so I do now hear myself and the negative talk real time, and it's almost like I'm separated and I'm observing it happening, and the time delay is now a second, and it's like, okay, noted, next time. Whereas before it was just like it might be weeks later, right? And then it's like you're always doing that, and that compounds and makes that negativity. It adds weight to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a release, like it's freeing. It's maybe that's a good stage to be in where you're like, oh, I see myself doing it, and I'm gonna stop doing that. You know, again, to
Right.
use Eleanor's, like when she talks about access bars, consciousness, and clearing
Hmm.
statements, and just pock and pod that shit. Point of creation, point of destruction. Wipe it clean. Old story. Don't need it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the experience. Um, I'm doing that kind of almost real time now.
Yeah.
So, and I think before we started this call, I was referring to myself as like a computer and like a piece
Right.
of technology, and like the defrag is getting.
Right.
It feels like I've had a good defrag.
Well, and it almost feels too like, and this is maybe a theme that we've talked about in our non-televised chats. Um, it's like, as again, this is pointing to individual circuitry. Like, as we readjust or reconfigure ourselves, so your defragging comment, it's like then we can learn how to teach other people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe from more of a conscious place, where otherwise we're just, dancing the dance or doing the thing until somebody else points it out, or it's pointed out as like, do you realize you're doing something pretty epic? Well, not really. It needs somebody else to kind of help us see it.
Yeah, well, let's do that right now because you got me thinking about something. So
Okay.
today, um, I was. It always happens on the pickleball court, but I'm like playing pickleball. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
damn, this is unreal. Like, let me see if I can just describe what happened today because some of it, quite literally, is like came from the CoStar app and things it was suggesting, and so let me paint the picture for you. I haven't played pickleball in 4 or 5 days, which is good.
Mm.
I do need some time off to reflect on my game. Like it's almost like that even clicks into place. Like, oh, I'm always doing that. So today I was a particularly clean.
Ah.
I played at this place called Kitty Hawk, and usually there's 10 people there, 2 courts, and so it's noisy. Like it's called a pickle. Like if the ball rolls onto the court, everyone yells pickle so that people don't step on the ball and hurt themselves. So today there was no pickles because we just had one court to ourselves. So it was heaven because there wasn't people nearby that I was worried about running into. There wasn't balls coming out of nowhere and trying to step on it, and acoustically there wasn't stuff bouncing around. So I was already like in the right environment. Before I went, we use an app called Open Sports or something, and you can send little chats for today's event. And so I sent a note to the group saying, "I've been recording myself playing drums lately at this jam, and then watching it back because I'm shocked. Like I learned so much. Like, oh my god,
Mm.
I can't believe how tight my wrists were. No wonder I'm having trouble with this or that." And so observing myself, that was huge. So uh, last night I sent a note to the group saying, would anyone mind if I
Mm.
pulled my phone out and video recorded playing just so I could watch back and see the footage? So this one guy who I've only met him twice. I won't say his name because although I don't think he'll ever see this chat, well, we'll just say his name was Jules, and nice enough guy. But he said, "No, I'd rather you don't." So I thought, okay, cool, I won't do that. And so I didn't film this thing. But sure shouldn't. We go to play today, and I'm playing the best I ever have. Like I would have. There was some moves. I was like, did anyone see that? Like I wanted to have that on recorded, right? And then he was a nice enough guy, but very competitive, and it was interesting observing him. And then there was only one woman there with us today. It was 4 guys and Patty, and he was coughing, and I could tell that they were having a conversation. And again, I sort of always find myself like that right ear, that 57 hears drama, and so I was immediately tapped in. And she was upset because she asked him like, "Are you sick?" And he said, "Yeah, but I'm fine." So he decided to play pickleball with a cold, and in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just build an energy bubble around me, and my health is good. I'm not, but she had every right to be kind of choked that she came here to play pickleball, and now she could go home with a flu or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember thinking in my head, "You dick," and so we're playing, and I took a shot. He was running sideways, and I sacked him so well, and he ran into the ball that again, had that been filmed, it would have been so perfect.
Mm.
And I was like, did my body just go like, there you go, motherfucker? You know, like it was like it was. I was not aiming for him like that, but it could
Mm.
have been more spectacular. And then in my head, it's like I think it was almost like he didn't want to videotape because he didn't want to see that. You know, that would have been the moment that he wouldn't have wanted to be captured. So, why am I telling you all that? Yeah, I don't remember why I got on that tangent.
I don't
Oh,
either.
oh man, I don't remember what I had a point. Anyways, it was a fun day. I loved it. So, hmm, no, there was something about observing what was going on.
Mm.
No, oh well. Because it's gone, I'm going to come back to my original question from before. So we got my chart up here. Let's get yours back up here. Um,
Oh, we had yours up. I wasn't even looking.
yeah, do you have any questions related to what we're talking about before we come back to yours?
Well, I kind of actually wanted to ask you a question that's not related to the 4323. I don't know if you have a way of pulling up your four worlds, but your total integrated. I'd love to look at that because I'm always the when the 360 comes in the transit, I don't like it.
Hmm. And I don't know enough about it, so let's talk about it. Um,
And it's interesting because I have 60 on my own, or just all the time in human design.
right?
Um, yeah, I could
That's
pull up
great.
my total integrated too. I'm gonna look
Uh,
at it on my
let's
phone.
go look at yours for a second here. So Nameh.
Yeah, but you don't have the total integrated there, do you?
No, but just because you were talking about you have the 60, but and I have the 3.
I
So
don't
that's
like the three. I don't like that I'm saying
okay.
that.
Let's talk about that then, because I don't think about the 3 very often, but it's now clear to me that 3 is what I've been talking about with this whole um,
Oh.
SOAS stuff, right? So
Well,
so
and it's interesting you were talking about Orion. So going back to that with the Qigong is I'll be in the shower and I'll have a better shower. I don't know what better shower means, but if I tilt, do just the hip tilt in, I notice that I can feel the difference.
in
And
the
for some reason, well, just if I do it anywhere, but there's something about when I'm in the shower um, that I tend to think about it more because
hmm,
it's like, well, okay, let me expand on it. So for me, when I'm showering, and I shower maybe more than the world would want me to, but I do it in the morning and I do it before I go to bed, and sometimes in the middle of the day. So I just added myself. Um, but the the sh- for me, it's an energetic clearing. It's like, if I have a bad sleep or whatever is happening, because in sleep design, I'm very open. Basically anywhere except for mental world, I'm a reflector, or not a reflector, a projector. I'm very open. But anyway, so when I'm showering, it's like I want to get rid of the gook. So when I'm at the desk job, when I finish the desk job for the day, I tend to take a shower. It's like if I'm having a sad night, I take a shower. It's
hmm,
because I'm trying to release or move that energy out. And so the reason why I think I'm doing the qigong, tilt the hip, is so that I can bring positive from the earth and like clear myself internally as well as the external energetic body.
yeah. Well, so many things on that. One, I use showers lately as well as an energetic clearing. I imagine it of like a get the fuck off me, all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also use a tuning fork, so I can do it auditory, and I have this aura spray, which
Mm.
this woman makes locally, and it's just got certain nice smells. But it's 2 squirts. So that, here's a tip for you: get yourself like an aura spray, 2 spritzes over your head, and just imagine it like you're getting a shower.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the result right without having to go and dry off everything. Um, The other thing I was thinking though is you and I have talked about sweating a lot, and
Right.
a shower is, you
Yeah.
just feel cleaner and stuff, right? I since we've been talking about that, and I've been looking in the metaphysical book about sweating and various things, and it was, what was the word it was tied to? Was it panic? Is that the word? The trigger emotion, I think, was panic.
I don't remember.
For me, it was in that book. It was, and as soon as I saw the word panic, like I knew what that meant and why my body was always reacting like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's a whole thing. So, but so yeah, I wanted to have a shower and get rid of the panic, maybe get rid of the that energy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, bunch of thoughts there. I will say that it seems that my role in life for most people is to be the crisis manager. So
Mm.
everyone else kind of assumes I'm always calm, and I think I exude that. But it's like a duck on the pond, right? Like under the surface, the legs are a kicking. But what's projected onto me is, well, you too with the 3-5. Like, there's
Mm.
gonna be this calmness. So it's, I think when I'm sweating, it's like panic underneath there still.
Yeah.
Less of it. Um, I actually noticed even when we were on this call, like I usually wear dark shirts, and I wear it so that you can't see, like if I'm sweating underneath, right? But today I was like, fuck, I'm gonna wear something light. So sure enough, not exactly dry, but it's not sports sweat this time. It's more just like
Right.
I've just been sitting in this chair all day, not paying attention. So it's something's shifted quite a bit. Like even the sweating seems to have
Hmm.
been diminishing a bit.
Yeah.
Bouncing around there, I think circling back, we were talking about the 3 and the 60, and
Hmm.
I think there is some sort of relationship there. I mean, the root is a pressure center to get things done. Uh, I didn't have, so you and I would complete the 360 anyway, energetically,
Hmm.
but I have it in the 4 worlds, and that's, I think I said that earlier. Like it was kind of an eye opener. Like, oh, hang on a second, I needed to like connect those two things.
Hmm.
And it is breathing, and breathing's important to me, as Eleanor's pointed out. The 21 is my chiron.
21.
Um,
Hmm.
but the breathing has to start from the root. It has to be grounded. It has to be grounded in the earth, which is
Mm.
about feeling secure. So funny talking to you because we've been vibing on this for quite a while. But like that invocation of the unified chakra thing,
Yeah.
have you been doing it, or like, dude, got to do it daily for a month? Fuck, it's life changing. That plus a couple of things, and you just like lock in bliss. But anyways, um, one part of it is you're imagining 12 beams of light shooting out of your
Sacral, I think.
mega chakra, which is like
Right.
8 inches below your root.
Mm.
But it specifically says your. I literally view it in my mind as 12 beams of light shooting out of my butt, grounding, like holding me to the ground. But instead of it being like pillars, it's an air balloon, a hot air balloon, still tethered to the ground
Oh,
with rope
nice.
because it needs to swing separately from the earth. Because even in the invocation, she specifically says, or it specifically says, like, don't ground yourself
Right.
directly with the earth. She's mutating too.
Right.
So there's something so profound about that
Hmm.
thing, uh, that I take it quite literally. The whole, can I tell you? I've been meaning to kind of like voice how I do it,
Sure.
because if anyone else wants to try it, so I highly recommend that you look at the visual, right? So like even in that video, we show it. It's this stick figure, and it starts with like you breathe in through your heart, and then you're creating these ever growing energetic egg of protection. And I had already experimented with breathing in through my heart. Like the idea is you actually imagine breathing the air through your heart. And that's because there's various other things where if you breathe out various positive affirmations, if you don't feel it in your heart, you can feel it somewhere else in your body. You go use that tell, reverse engineer that, and all of a sudden you feel whole. I forget what that's called, but I could, anyways, it's a whole other thing. But you breathe in through your heart, with each one, because you're breathing in and it's getting you, and she keeps talking about letting it expand. I just keep always imagining that my shoulders are getting a bit wider. So kind of even like, Ryan's stuff, it's about get the, you have your arms at your
Right.
sides, but just slightly out. And so your
Mhm.
chest can expand. So your heart can expand. So your heart space can expand to fill with light. So I am always imagining that. But then also when she says within, without, or I'm quite literally with my eyes closed, shooting a white light up and down, and then front and back, and
Mm.
then I do a figure eight around my head. So every
Mm.
time she says that, I'm going mm, mm, with my eyes inside my head. And after like 6 weeks of that, it's like I do it, and it takes 1 second, and my head just feels like a beach ball, like the inside of a beach ball, just clean
Mm.
air, nothing swirling around, just silence. And at the same time, my body feels like it's got this energetic. You can't, you can't get me. You know,
Mm.
force field.
Mm.
So it's awesome. But I experienced it at that Star Dreaming in Santa Fe, which highly
Mm.
recommend sitting there and doing that in Merlin's chair, for example. Like do that a couple times. Um, yeah, there's something really profound about that thing, and the more I dig into, what's the guy's name? Have I sent you stuff about the Book of Wisdom? Bookofwisdom.net. There's this guy. He's produced this book, and he's on YouTube, live casting all the time. And it goes all over the place as far, but it really is just keeps breaking down that all of every religion is trying to tell us the same thing. Take care
Mm.
of your spine, kundalini, the chakras. The Lord's Prayer is just walking you through the
Oh.
energy centers. Going down the chimney as Santa Claus is like going down the chimney into the sacral, and that's where the fire is, and then going back up. And so, literally every religion seems to be trying to tell us to
Mm.
tap into your kundalini, open your third eye, but they're all slightly masked, and I wanted to say mutated, but mutated would mean, well, mutated, I don't know if that means improving, but certainly bastardized. So let's
Mm.
really, if we go back thousands of years, you know the kundalini is a thing. It's magical. It opens up that satellite dish.
Mm.
um, and yeah, and then you got to protect that thing. So the unified chakra kind of keeps that
Ah.
protected,
Mhm.
because you're all of a sudden you're vulnerable. I think too, like the yeah, like I'm super sensitive to everything now. My
Mm.
intuition is off the charts compared to what it used to be, and it is
Mm.
just that it's all lit up. It's like it's like like almost the danger of being psychic, because you can sense too much. So it's been overwhelming. I'm glad it's been gradual. So I've just been kind of working through it. So
Well, but what I'm tracking, or I'm curious if you recognize this as a component, is you're somebody who's studied Reiki, yeah?
mhm.
So to me, there's a combination of, because I haven't done Reiki. I mean, I have an idea of what it is, but that's just my idea. I haven't studied it. I haven't received Reiki consistently. But unified chakra, or yeah, doing that invocation feels like it could be a combination of the two. Would
Mhm.
you say?
Well, yeah, I'm throwing. I mean, I'm throwing everything with the kitchen sink at my chi lately. So
Yeah.
I am guilty of not being sure which is working the best, because
Hmm.
but it's all seems to be towards the goal of that matters.
Yeah.
So I give my so I got initiated in Reiki with Eleanor, and then
Hmm.
second degree. And I remember the originally, because I was also. Do you know Tim Bacon? You familiar with that name? Awesome dude. He's he does Reiki, and so he kind of introduced me to it first and sent me some absentee Reiki, like remote Reiki. And I'm just like lying in a bed, and it's like at 3 o'clock p.m. on a Sunday. I'm going to send you some remote Reiki. You're going to download this packet, And I was like, oh sure, okay. And of course, I had some mushrooms, so whatever I felt just seemed to amplify it, anyways. But all I know is it was the real deal, and so it got me extra curious about it. But he kept talking about how uh, important and sacred it is, and
Mm.
so does Dr. Eleanor, right? Like, and so I almost didn't want to. Sorry, that was my phone. I almost didn't want to do it for a while because it sounded like I needed to honor the tradition
Mm.
in a way that I wasn't sure I had the not maturity, but like the I just been procrastinating on so many things. I didn't want to let Eleanor down. I didn't want to let Reiki down. Um,
Mm.
but now that I've experienced it and gone through it, like it's asinine to me that I didn't
Mm.
like just immediately jump on it. And why don't I just apply it to myself every day? Like it's the
Mm.
best part. And it really is just self-care, like literally putting your hands in the back of your neck and holding space for your neck for 2 minutes, and then over your
Mm.
eyes, holding space for your eyes for 2 minutes. And um, it's amazing. And whether it's chi or prana or what universal life force, whatever this
Mm.
energy is, I can capture it in my hands. And today at pickleball, having done my warm-ups and stuff, I the paddle feels different in my hands.
Mm.
Like like it my if you ever stick your hands in water for like an hour and a half, they get pruny, but they get kind of bloated. Like
Mm.
when you touch things, there's they're more feeling, there's more there. That's how my hands feel when the Reiki is activated. All of a sudden my paddle is just like I could do anything with it. And like
Huh.
it didn't matter what I did, it was just like working by itself.
Huh.
So yeah, Reiki's the real deal. What I've learned from Eleanor is that I guess, it was it's an oral tradition, I think is the way you describe it. So um, very old, passed along, somehow got diluted and bastardized as well, right? At some point, someone became a Reiki master and then was like, oh, Reiki for everyone. But the problem is,
Mm.
it's not respected,
Mhm.
it loses its power. Um, so I'm like super grateful that I got my initiation from Dr. Eleanor because
Mhm.
it's got that lineage to Mrs. Tanaka, and much as I don't know that much about it, it sounds important. So it's good
Mhm.
enough. And my
Mhm.
lived experience now is there is absolutely 100% something to it. And I gave some to my mom the other day because she just had surgery, and she's she's a tough nut to impress. Um, but she's been telling me like I feel different. I feel better
Mm.
after, and all I did is held space for parts of her body for 2 minutes each. Right?
Mm.
That's if second degree, that's all it takes. It's not morphine, but it is something that has a knock-on compounding positive effect.
Mhm.
So much so that like I'm such a convert now, and it's debatable whether light language that's being channeled is the same as Reiki that people are sharing. But you can go on YouTube and just be like, I need some Reiki for um,
Mm.
sore back. You just type in Reiki and sore back, and you don't even have to have the audio on. But if the person's sending it, if it's a clean channel, why wouldn't you put it on the background? I put Reiki on in my pocket. It's
Mm.
volume's at 1. Nobody can hear it, but I can feel it, the volume coming from the phone on my leg. And I'm like, that's all I need. Like,
Mm.
it's, I equate that to, it's funny, I'm connecting a lot of dots. Maybe that's that 4323, but the if you've ever looked at light language on YouTube, it's people channeling, and often,
I know what it is, but not on YouTube.
yeah, there's one woman whose name I've now forgotten. I actually knew it once. Anyways, she's got hundreds, if not thousands, now, and what she seems to do is channels this message. So she'll have automatic writing. So you'll there'll be this white sheet of paper you can see, and it's got like she's channeled something, and then in the description of the YouTube video will be a full description of what she channeled. And like if it's on like gallbladder, it's like the clearest description I've ever seen of gallbladder. And some of her videos are from 5 years ago. So that's pre chat GPT. Because like what's in there now, I could probably say, describe gallbladder for me and throw it in a YouTube video and make me look smart. When she had it in there, I don't think she was using, she doesn't even seem all that technically, like that's not her thing. So she's channeling some like information about all these diseases and all these things that are helping to counteract. So she's got this automatic writing, the description, and then she speaks it. And as I say, from what I understand, you don't even really need to listen to it. I used to, and I still do, I usually put it on and I just will go play a game or something or read a book. It's just over there, but it's doing its thing. My friend Elena, uh, when I showed it to her, she said it looks like Sanskrit, which, as she explained to me, is like the oldest language that exists,
Mm-hmm.
possibly like some exists pre-verbalizing, right? If we got our larynx 85,000 years ago or whatever, like prior to that, we expressed ourselves through drums, which is a whole other conversation I'd like to talk about. Actually, we can't about Reiki, um, but I don't think I need to understand that light language to listen to it. It's not for my ears. It's energy for my body to take in with my consent. Like I want that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And Eleanor, I've talked about this a bit. Like, you got to be careful what you tap into on YouTube because people have like frequency, vibration for whatever, but what's actually there, right? Someone could use that nefariously, be like, this will help your heart be better, and meanwhile that they're sending the opposite energy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I will say that this one woman's, I'm very confident it's the legit real deal. And I've experimented with it so much so that I have used it to create playlists to reverse engineer my dream rave. So, like, what is my weak point? What
Mm-hmm.
other, and then creating a playlist of light language and Reiki to have my body listen to while I'm sleeping. Like, I've been experimenting with that, and I can't really prove it's worked, but I feel pretty good, and my mind's pretty clear. So it's something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, light language. You were asking about Reiki though. Basically, Reiki and light language seem very like. I think at the end of the day, it's universal language,
Mm.
it's energy. It's
Yeah.
what you want from it. What's the intention of it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somehow we got here from a jumping point of the 360.
Okay.
Mm. And
Okay.
I was saying that I'm not as fond, or I struggle with the energy of the three.
Mm.
Um, and I'm open to that story being different. Um, I think the tether that I am curious how it lands is, the 360. So 60 is limitation and 3 is chaos. And so it's thought about is like bringing order to chaos is one way that I've heard it described. And then talking about the 4323, it's about splitting apart. So it's breaking new ground. So 4323s could say something that's never been said before. And I see that sometimes in, like, I was on a walk with a friend and I was like, I'm a joy machine. And I was like, where did that come from? It's not like the maybe most epic of phrases, but it's like I'll put something together that hasn't been oriented that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me, and I'm just making this connection now, that like the sacral and the throat kind of have similar qualities to me. Um, the throat's not an engine or it's not a motor, but anyway, I'm making the comparison of 360 and 4323 having similar qualities to them.
At opposite ends of the Kundalini, at the opposite
Oh,
of the central column,
well, there you
right?
go.
So the central column or the penta
Hmm.
is the sacral, the G center, and the throat, right? So you've got
Right.
energy to do something, you need to define it, and then you need to manifest it or communicate it. So really, yeah, that's the head and the ajna, like the root, are not parts of that central column. They're important outliers. So interesting. Oh, unless you want to comment on that, you already short circuited my brain when you were talking about the three because um, I don't I the three gate three I gotta say I've spent the least amount of time on. So when
Mm.
you say you don't like it, I'm like, I don't know anything about it, and it's part of my design. The reason I'm even extra curious about it is that my entry point into really truly it was just massive for me was learning about genetic trauma, which is your design Mars, your line number. So much so that I seem to be the only person out of a few people that were aware of it. Like, what's Amy's partner, John? Um,
Cool.
yeah, he had a blog post on it and was the only thing I'd ever seen besides a Russian article I found. This is like 2.5 years ago. Now it's in neutrino design. It's just like a button. You just like, oh, there it is. So mine is shame. Um,
Keep talking. I'm just
yeah.
getting books.
Okay, so the reason I'm talking about that is it's the opposite side. So design Mars and genetic trauma was super important for me and still is, and it's a real eye opener for almost anyone I talk to. It's probably my favorite parlor trick as far as human design. But again, I'm thinking about the timing. I was talking about Tim Bacon earlier. I One night we were hanging out and talking, and I was telling him about genetic trauma, and he commented that your personality Mars is supposed to be the fountain of youth. So genetic trauma, like, is if you heal that, you can actually turn off the genetic programming to have diseases turn on, around your Chiron return. I took that seriously. I'm in the best shape of my life, mentally and physically. He had said the personality Mars line number was the fountain of youth. I have not dug deeper into what that meant, but the reason I'm asking is that my personality Mars is gate three. So
Oh.
basically, the fountain of youth for me, my next experiment would be understanding this gate. So, can you tell me, and then let's see where this goes. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah. By the way, I love that book.
Right? Brenda's amazing. When are you going to have her on your show?
Uh, I got to remember to schedule things. I almost forgot we were meeting today, so I'm gonna work on that. Anytime, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Um,
You have a message out to her, but she hasn't engaged with the message, so I don't know what's going on.
I did.
Okay.
Sorry, I watched part of her podcast with you though, and like it's such an amazing book, and there's so much detail. But the way she described it, she's like, "Yeah, it was something I was interested in for a while, and then I moved on." I was like, "How does someone make something that amazing and then is almost like flippant about it?" Like, yeah,
She's such an artist. Anyway, I think you guys would have some interesting connected conversations. So I don't want to
yeah.
tell you too much about her.
Well, I forgot you know her, so maybe can you connect us? Because A, I'll forget, and B, uh, yeah, a personal introduction would be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Like I said, I've started that conversation, but she might be
Okay.
traveling. She hasn't come back around to it. But okay, so there's one other thing that I didn't get when I went on my little book excursion. Um, so what we're talking about is the animal totems. This is reversed, so you're not really seeing that. But Brenya Magnuson, she wanted to understand the gates more. So she sat with the different gates, the I Ching, the human design, gene keys, and then she came up with what she felt the gate represented in an animal totem. So the animal totem for gate 3, so she's using the word learning for gate 3. And in I Ching, it's referred to as difficulty at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And in human design, it's called ordering. So, what do you want me to read?
And what was the animal totem?
Oh, yeah, I didn't get there. Wolf.
Oh, okay. Were you? Because I've gone through about 10 of my gates so far with it. Like I started with the incarnation cross gates naturally, and I had some other interests. Then I just haven't returned to it. But I feel like I looked at wolf though. Either that or wolf is prominent. Okay. Anyways, do you want to read it? Should we
Yeah,
explain?
sure. Which, just all the animal totem part? Because there's different sections.
That's why I like the book or love the book is I'm really struggle with remembering the names of gates and their energies. But when I think of an animal, you can like smell it. You know if you want to cuddle it or not. Um, there's more that I can remember it more. So yeah, let's start with the animal tone because I think that sets the theme.
Okay. Wolves embody both individualistic and tribal natures. Wolves represent learning, teaching, and mentoring. Oh, God. Sam and Carson write in the medicine cards, quote, in the great star nation, Wolf is represented by the dog star, Sirius, which legend tells us was the original home of our teachers in ancient times, end quote. Even modern esoteric disciplines assert that advanced consciousness came to our planet long ago from the Sirius star system. Cyrus. I don't know. Reading isn't. Anyway.
I think it's serious. Yeah,
Sirius?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Whose teachings accelerated the progress of human development. No matter how the association of wolves and learning came to be, the wolf totem prompts us to further the education of the mind, body, and soul. In whatever format this animal totem is addressing the receiver, be it to a teacher or a student, both have something to learn and to give as long as both are willing. If you come by wolf medicine, become receptive to the possibility of both an unexpected teacher appearing in your life or educating yourself through the reflections of another. You may also be drawn to the venture alone into Mother Nature to access her great teaching capability.
Super interesting. Bunch of reasons. One, I now remember why I went on that pickleball story. It was quite literally the same thought came up as you read that. Like a wolf, lone wolf. I've been told about my design enough times now that I'm highly individual. I'm here for myself as myself. I'm here to be selfish. And again, I've really struggled with that. But I was playing pickleball today and I'm like, man, all these things that I'm playing pickleball, and in my mind, I'm designing a pickleball coaching course, and I'm like, I'm drawing out the marketing plan and what days of the week I'm gonna do it while I'm playing pickleball, like this, right? And then I'm like, what am I doing? Why? Like I'm always
Mm,
I learn things so quickly through experience. And the only thing slowing me down is I always feel like, oh, I got to go now inform everyone. Like everyone needs to know this.
mm,
And so I'm starting to realize that nobody wants me to give them the information. They want to see they want to ask me what I'm doing, and if I share it, they're listening. And so I could be learning and experiencing and leveling up faster by actually being self. Like, I'm just going to do this for me.
Yeah.
Ask me any question you want, but literally everything I learn, I feel like, oh, I need to go on YouTube and tell people how to do this. This could save people. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
I need to save everyone thing, which I think comes from that 5 profile. It's
Well, and
that.
aren't you guilt motivation?
No, my wife is though.
Oh,
So,
desire. Okay.
I think just by being like living in close proximity with that, there's an influence of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about that today too, and just like gate 35 and how did I already mention that today? No, come on, it's such a good story because it's so true. So there's the voices of the throat, right?
Oh no,
So
you did talk about this. About she says, "I remember,"
she
or
says, like,
yeah, and you know that it's in resonance. Yeah.
for her, and I assume that was what we say I feel around these parts. But if I
Yeah.
say I feel, nobody hears it. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like, anyways, so thinking about that 3 and the wolf, and then it was like tribal and collective, I think, as it said,
Individualistic
or individualistic
and tribal by nature. Yeah.
yeah. So quite literally today, in the last couple of days, it's like maybe I need to really just focus on improving me, and when people ask, have the space for them instead of always trying to save everyone. And because
Mm.
I'm so frustrated because I see people suffering, and I'm like, I got the answer for you. I got it. I've experienced it. I've done it. It's right here, and it's not their time. They're not ready to hear it. They're not, and it's agonizing because I don't like to watch people suffer, especially when I fully, in some cases, know what would work because I was there and you know, so.
Well, and so looking at your total integrated chart, the on the left there, having 3 direction gates or channels to me would be really intense. So it makes sense that there's almost like this, like
What
the
do you mean by direction gate? I don't think I've heard that phrase
so
before.
the G to the throat is to offer direction.
Hmm. Sorry, I was for some reason I thought I heard the spleen, so I was looking in the wrong place entirely.
Yeah.
So say that again. It's the G center,
To the throat. So
right?
all 3 of those. But it just feels like I'm trying to make the sound of like everything happening at once. So you have your sacral that's wanting to go do all these epic things, and yet you also have this connection of energy that wants to give direction to people who aren't asking for it necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when they ask, they're locked eyes. They're in for the story.
Yeah, well, a lot of those channels are projected too, right? And I
They're
definitely,
all projected, yeah.
and I've learned to become sneaky. Like I'll say, "Can I make a suggestion?" And if they respond yes, I'm in lock, right? Like I can feel it. And if they kind of like they just didn't hear me, then I'm like, okay, I gotta let that go. I'm gonna be wasting my time. I'm gonna be frustrated. It's gonna become a problem, And yeah, I guess again that resonance thing, like it's like not now. That their soul it doesn't want it right now. It's too
Yeah.
bad. But, um, fascinating. So,
Earlier, remember when I said I wanted to look at your chart?
mhm.
You have 38. You know that 38 is one of the 3 death gates.
I haven't paid any attention to 38 yet because it's not in my mental chart, and I don't think I've gone that deep yet. So no, I didn't know that was one of the deaf gates.
Yeah, it's the fighter. So it's all about like, is this my fight or not?
So that'd
And
be interesting to see what world that's in too, I guess. Like,
we'll scroll. You got it, no?
yeah. So let's do this because I'm still learning how to do this. So you're talking about 38, which is coming out of the root.
Mm-hmm. It's the death gates are all individual, so all going to be in the center. Yep, here you go. So it's
Uh, critical 3-month postnatal interactive world. Isn't it interactive means physical, right?
I'm so not used to seeing it this way. I
Yeah,
think
and
it's it emotional. I didn't bring it
Is it?
over.
I thought it. Oh, okay, maybe.
I don't know. No. You're right. It's mental.
No, it's not mental because I don't have it in the mental world.
No, but you have 2 mentals.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you put this 8 on a page? No, that'd slow us down. So the conscious wake in reality, and so your prenatal solar, and then the other one that we were looking at was your postnatal solar. So it's your mental, but it's on the other side. So it is mental.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay, that's something new I learned today too. Then that even just with her calculations, the mental.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have 2 mentals, 2 spiritual, 2 physical.
Right. And oh, okay. Maybe she's already explained that. Then is that one is 3 months before and one's 3 after, time frame wise? Right. Okay.
Something around that line, yeah.
Okay. So going back to that 3. So in the
Mhm.
mental world, how did we get on the 38? We were talking about the wolf. We were talking about the desire to
The
like.
deaf thing. I was I was picking up the deaf gate.
Oh. Was that because I wasn't listening to you?
No.
Okay.
The people who aren't able to hear you in a moment, it could be because they're in their deaf journey.
Oh, that's interesting. Hmm. Well, and so let me ask you though, like, is it my job or purpose to make sure everyone learns all these things? It sure seems like that's what I was kind of having this battle on the pickleball court in my mind. Well, I was still playing phenomenal pickleball and designing a business plan. Um, the whole time I was like, I think I just gotta like keep learning this shit and share it if I'm asked. Only share if I'm asked. And like it just seems so obvious now because I'm wasting so much energy sharing stuff and nobody's asking. And it just seems ridiculous to me because I'm like, fuck, some of the things I'm learning, like this could really have an impact. But if I present it, yeah. If it's not invited, it's just literally lands like a with a 0. It's so frustrating. And so I mean, I think about like what Orion's doing. I think he's done such an amazing job of putting together something and the way he presents it, and like just everything about his course, I think is amazing. And in my head, I'm like, I guess that's what I do now. I gotta go be like Orion and do that because it makes sense to me. But I've kind of realized that that's not correct for me. I think what I'll probably do is make a 1 hour course. Like actually, I was doing this during pickleball today too. I mapped out that plan. Um, was just doing like a 3 hour pickleball session where we meet at the court, like 10 of us. And for the first 45 minutes, we do a qigong session where we're going to actually get energy flowing, and we're going to do whatever other modalities I bring to it. Then we're going to play some pickleball, and then when we're done, we're going to wind down and maybe even do a yoga nidra at the end or something, and just like quite literally have like an event where you play the best pickleball of your life and get introduced to all these cool things that you'd be like, holy shit, I'm usually anxious. I'm not anxious today. Was it the
Mm-hmm.
pickleball? No, it wasn't. The pickleball is where you let off some steam. The Qigong is where you got your shit together and got your central column going. So I was like, I was putting that together in my head today, going, okay, right, stop worrying about like I gotta do what Orion does. He already does that great. My job is to be intuitive and go like, go check out that guy's stuff. Like it's awesome. Instead of feeling like I need to now mimic that.
Right.
In my mind, I don't know if it's the total open head and ajna, but it's just like I kind of feel like I need to be good at everything
Mm-hmm.
all the time. That might be the open heart too, possibly. A worthiness thing that's just an old story at this point, but
Yeah, and what's coming into is I'm reminded of Dr. Eleanor's, what she was talking about today in the manifest your dreams around the Pluto is, what is our spirits? longing. And I think our spirits, anyway, I was going to say selfish, but I don't think it would even be thought of as that in the spiritual realm.
No, because that's where the human design stuff is interesting, and the incarnation cross, and um, your spirit, your soul is here. You're here to accomplish something, and it's not your job. Um, it's not the job that you think you're doing. It's you become your incarnation cross.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that from Orion as well. It was like at a podcast where he talked about how you don't try to be your incarnation cross. You once you seem to embody it, you've got it correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a while there, that's where my target was. I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to get to know my personality, sun, my earth
Right.
personality, and get to know those four gates. Like actually really try to sit with each one and understand them. And again, that's where that book with the totems, that's the first thing I went to again, just to kind of, when I circled back around, um, that resonated even more deeply. I just went straight for those four gates. It was like, am I showing up, and that's my choice, am I showing up by my choice to pay attention to those four gates and lean into them and trust them? And then the rest of it seems to be playing out by nature of being the outer authority. My vibe is resonating more in tune to the point where I can feel it.
Mm.
Yeah. I've had people come up to me and say, like, you really like you've had a glow up, and I'd be like, oh, okay, but I feel it now. Like I can feel it in my body, and then I'm locking that feeling in with that invocation. By the way,
Mm.
so that's the other thing too. Uh, when you get that feeling, like, do you do much meditation?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done transcendental meditation?
Mm-mm.
So good. I get to such a blissy place now, and because of that headspace that I can create, that I just remind myself to lock it in. So I've learned through hypnosis training that you want to anchor things. So there's one is called the baga, and it's you put your tongue on the top of your mouth, the top of the roof of your mouth, and another way is just to hold these two fingers together. So if
Mm-hmm.
I get to that blissy state in meditation or whatever, I then put my tongue on the roof of my mouth and I just like hold it there and like for a minute and just like lock it in so that I can retrieve that feeling and state at any time.
Mm.
So I've gotten that. I don't know how I got on that point, but do it. If you get like whenever you're in bliss, just lock it in, and just because you be able to recall it, if there's some sort of process that goes on that makes it something you can retrieve. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you're in the shower and you're getting everyone's shit off you and everyone's off at that point, then after that, lock that in
Nice.
because you might be able to do that just with a squirt of water instead of a shower at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. As you were talking, I was thinking about how in Brenya's book, have you gotten to this part where she talks in the episode that she did with me where she talks about the dinner party question?
No, I got about 20 minutes into it, and then my typical squirrel brain. But also, the book you're holding up is not the book I know of. So, which book is that?
Yeah, so this is the other book that she did. It's on the incarnation crosses.
Oh, okay.
And so you can, on digital, like you can just get one cross. So you could get, the Sphinx if you wanted, or the whole book. She doesn't have the whole thing digitally, but yeah. So the idea of the dinner party is basically she came up with a question that embodied what the incarnation cross was. And so instead of going at a dinner party and saying, what do you do? Like, what's your job? When you're talking before about day job, it's more like, what does the incarnation cross represent in who you are? And so your dinner party question would be, and people could either ask you this or your energy is asking them this. And so for the Sphinx, it's right. You're the Sphinx, right?
Yeah, and there's four of them. Does it not matter? This is just for all four? Okay. And then
Yeah.
before you share what you're about to share, because this might launch a whole other thing, is in Eleanor's world, she calls them patterns of orientation, and I'm Sphinx, but I'm also Maya. And then so because actually you sent me page, I'm sure I asked you for the pages for Maya and Sphinx, right? So it'd be fun to talk that through together because the more I talked to Eleanor about them, I was like, what is the Maya,
I
anyways?
know.
And I think it's just dark matter. It's quite literally the energy we can't see. So is that not chi? So isn't it interesting that everything I do right now is about chi? Like literally everything. Quite so. Here, let me show you some of the other things. I don't know if it was a conversation with Eleanor or who it was, but I understand that we have 4 portals in our body. So at least as far as Reiki is concerned, one portal is in this part of your wrist, right? This is where the Reiki, the white light, comes from. We also have it in the bottom of our feet, our eyes, and I think it's our mouth. And so once I learned about that, my brain's like, well, I gotta amp that stuff up. So I've been putting let's just go do the feet first quick. So the feet, I've been putting these ginger and turmeric pads on my feet for probably 6 or 8 weeks now. Every morning I wake up, there's still just nasty, gunky stuff, but I swear it's like vacuuming out shit out of my portals. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm literally
Mm.
cleaning something. Um,
Do you think it's like food related too?
I
Do you think it's
Yeah, I mean it's something physical in my body, but I do think I kind of view it like a magnet that's pulling crap out
yeah.
through my feet through a portal, and I want my portals to be as
Yeah.
clean as possible, right? So that's why I aim for that spot. I also read or saw something recently like some people will bath in like was it Himalayan salt or whatever.
Mm.
So I've been like probably twice a week. I'll put my feet in a foot bath with some Epsom salts, but also Himalayan salt. And I just kind of view it as me discharging my battery, my energetic
Mm.
battery. So, and I'm pretty sure, like, it's to the point where if it wasn't such a pain to dig the thing out and do the water and the towel and, and then burn my feet because I always make it too hot. And like, to me, it's this whole process. Um, the days where I do that and then put those pads on my feet the next morning, I just feel like there's like head to toe, I feel good.
Mm.
That's the feet. With the wrists, it I bought this the other day, and I've had one of these before. It's a gyro ball, and
Uh-huh.
so it's this device where I have a string, or in this case, you turn this little thing, and it's a ball within a ball. So it this one's cool because it lights up too. So if I get it going, and
Oh, sure.
it puts so much pressure on my hand. Like it may not sound like much, but like it's all I can take to not drop the ball, in a way. And so I feel like I'm strengthening the portals.
I see.
Intuitively started grabbing here, and I've been squeezing as I do this.
Uh-huh.
I can feel like pressure being released through my wrists. And so I was viewing this as, hey, my drumming will be stronger and my pickleball will be better. But no,
Uh-huh.
it's increasing my chi, is what it's doing. Like my
Nice.
when I go and hold that chi ball now, it's like so yeah, try that for a week. Let me know how that goes. So
You have all these little tidbits.
well, I got a couple. I have thousands. That's the problem. But well, actually, no. I'm refining it down quite a bit, so I probably could have it down to a top 20. But I think that's all to say. I'm really interested in chi, prana, and to me, that's dark matter, and
Mm.
that's where I mean. There we go. We're getting back to my point. Patterns of orientation, and I'm Sphinx, but I'm also Maya.
Yep.
Okay.
So, dinner party question.
Yeah.
For you, Sphinx would be what is changing or about to change in your life?
Those are questions for me.
Either people would ask you that question, or you would ask, or your energy is bringing that question to them.
Mm, that's interesting.
So like when I messaged you the other night and I was like, "Hey, do you got space? I could use a friend to chat with."
Mm.
It's on this theme, which I don't want to talk about on YouTube, but
Okay, fair enough. We'll do that. Um,
um
that question
so
made me super uncomfortable, though.
what's that?
That question made me super uncomfortable. Like if you're asking a sphinx, but I think it's how I want to answer that is one. I never seem to know what's coming next, and the more I plan, the less it works. Life is way more fun when I just let it unfold. But also, I think I just hear that gate 57 loud in my ear. I just remember looking in the neutrino design app, and that's I think the fear of tomorrow. Is it the 57 or the 55? I think it's
Future.
future.
You're the future.
And I go to bed. I'm almost like don't want to go to bed because tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be like, it's a reset, like the day before it didn't exist again.
Groundhog Day.
Except Groundhog Day. Why? That's one of my favorite movies, by the way.
Well,
Because Groundhog Day, there's two ways to look at it, right? It's torture because you have the same day over and over again until he gets the lesson at the end, which is like, wow, man, I just got really good at piano. I got really good at this. I got really good at that. And then you start life over, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, that's a really uncomfortable question, though. And I think it's because I don't. It's interesting, too, because all week Eleanor's been talking about goals. And this is a good time to set goals with Pluto going into Aquarius and all that, right? And I just
Yeah.
had a. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, in your total integrated, you've got the goals. You've got the goals channel.
Mm.
In your spiritual, you have it too. 3254.
Yeah, see, that's another gate and channel I haven't paid much attention to. So I'm going to have to zero in on that tonight. I literally just did a shorter podcast with my friend Michael earlier, and we got talking about goals. And yeah, it's the word goals are like such a trigger for me still. So we got talking about wishes or intent, which I'm much more comfortable with. Like my intent is for these things, but if I set something as a goal, I can't control all the variables. And I think I know that if I get excited about something, and people get behind me, it can move. But I shouldn't be allowed to operate it or manage it because I'll get bored and find a reason to blow it up. And I think that's the 36 of just there's this. I'm sure I said to you, like I can find the elephant in the room. And if I can't find it, I'll make one because I'll be bored, right? Like it's quite literally. Um, mhm. Wow, I have a lot to think about tonight. That's good.
Well, I'm happy to read you the Maya one.
Yeah.
And then if we could move towards winding down, I'm losing my steam.
Yep. Absolutely.
So interesting. The Maya dinner party question is, what are you trying to understand?
I just felt my breath get taken away, and I think it's immediately I went to the open head and ajna of just like it's literally limitless. So that stresses me out. Mentally exhausting. Trying to yeah. Can you ask that question one more time? I'm gonna have to sit with that.
Yep. What are you trying to understand?
Mm. Yeah, literally everything, all the time. It's exhausting.
So how is trying to understand serving you?
It's not. And just as you were asking that question, I'm reminded that if I'm always present in the moment, I'm a good listener because the person I'm talking to is now the most interesting person in the world. So they feel seen as well, which is great for everybody involved. um, so I'm present, I'm listening, I'm having, I always get something from the experience. There's always some tidbit that I was supposed to hear, and it's never where I'm expecting it. And I now also know that I'm given the information just before I need it.
Mm.
It's happened to so many times where I would describe it and say to people like it's funny, like I don't know how it happened, but now I know that it just that happens. So that allows me to relax about
Mm-hmm.
that, if that makes sense. I've had enough evidence that I seem to get the data as I need it.
That sounds like a computer talking.
Yeah. And it's also, isn't that the 4323 in a way? Like it's knowledge without knowing? Like,
Oh yeah.
so do I have access to that too? I just had to learn to trust it. Whereas,
Mm.
oh, so there we go. That was the point of today. Like I was already thinking like I think I got this. Like, doesn't matter that my body graph doesn't show
Mm.
43. I
Yep.
know how to harness it. I'm gonna spend
Yep.
some time with Nameh. I'm going to wait for a transit. I'm going to,
Yep.
pretty soon I should just start growing my own plants and find, make sure I time one so that 4320 doesn't transit when it's born. Like, and then, there's so many things that we could do because if I know how to harness and use that in energy and I know in my body, then I know how to use it, then I just need to tap into it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. You worn
Thank
out?
you, friend.
Yeah. That was a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to play that exit video. We'll sign off. Hang out here for a second and I'll catch up with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.